Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls, and welcome to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the WFA's educators and a women's online coach. Today, I've got Laura with me, who is an amazing women's fitness coach. Her mission is to help women achieve what they once thought was impossible by educating them on how to train smart and how to eat and train with purpose. Now, she does this by helping them build resilient and capable bodies in and also outside of the gym without breaking themselves or following any extremes. And I'm all about that. And by doing that, she proves her clients that their bodies are their biggest blessings, that they have badass women that can fall in love with themselves and live with a purpose. Such a good way of introducing you, Laura. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. I love these podcasts, so it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I love that. I love having guests like you. You know, before we started recording, we were actually chatting a little bit about how you were never into fitness, and I really want to know about that. So please, share, how did you get into fitness?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a long story. So I moved to Australia about 7 years ago now. So I come from Bolivia, which is in South America, for those of you that don't know. And growing up, I was never into sport, hated PE, all of that stuff. But I was really into horse riding. So my family and I, we had horses, and I used to go on trail rides every weekend. So when I moved to Australia, I obviously couldn't bring my horse. So I came here to study. As I said, I've always been into nature with the horses and all that stuff. So it was always my dream to work with animals, be outside. So I studied zoology and environmental sciences at uni. And when I moved, I was like, okay, I need to find a replacement for horse riding. So I got into bushwalking. So I moved to Tasmania. Bushwalking is huge in Tassie. So I joined the University Bushwalking Club, and I went on my first walk. And it was horrible. We started walking and I was completely out of breath. My body hurt. We didn't even make it halfway through. And then we had to turn back just because of me. So yeah, going back, it was obviously really embarrassing. But more so than that, it was like, am I not going to be able to see Tasmania just because I'm not fit enough? So the way I see it at the time, I had the option to cry about it, never go on a bushwalk again, and just, live to study, or get my butt to the gym. So luckily I went for number two. And that's sort of how I started. Like many other girls, I assume I started in the cardio machines with classes, and then slowly transitioned into weight training. And that's sort of when I've always been very performance driven. Like that's the whole reason I started fitness. But yeah, I feel like weight training gave me like a sense of empowerment and everything. But obviously, when you start getting into the gym, you do get into social media and that sort of stuff, which I was never into. So yeah, that's sort of where the body image issues started to happen as well. So it's been kind of a rocky road for me. I've also struggled with an eating disorder while I was at it. But yeah, I slowly got out of that, helped a few of my friends, and decided to become qualified while I was studying. So I got my PT certificate, the year I graduated, and then started working at the university gym actually. So yeah.
I love that. It's such a cool transition from no fitness, from horse riding, living overseas, to bushwalking. Was not expecting that at all. I don't think I've ever been on a bushwalk. I've probably been on mountain hiking, but I assume bushwalking is next level.
Yeah, it's very long. Sometimes you might be in tracks that are not very well marked and everything. And I really wanted to be able to do that and do overnight walks, carry a heavy bag, that sort of stuff. So yeah, and it was really cool. And weight training actually helped a lot with that. So yeah.
So good. So with the weight training, how did we transition from the bushwalking to the gym?
I was getting really bored with cardio. And I then started looking at social media, and I came across Emily Sky, who a lot of you might know. And I bought her ebook, and that's sort of what got me into it. Yeah, like following a program, and yeah, like seeing the progression every week really helped me. And I slowly started to ditch the cardio stuff and became very performance driven with the weights. And then, yeah, I started looking at bodybuilding.com, and yeah, a lot of missing information here and there. And then I got a coach, worked with him for a little bit, then went on my own again. And now I'm working with another coach as well, which, yeah, it's been really good to learn.
I love that. Emily Scott is amazing. She has been in the industry for so long. For those who don't know, make sure that you look her up. But now she's also a mum. So she has a lot of like postnatal exercises, and yeah, the way of her progression is admirable to see how like her body changes, but also with her clients as well. But anyway, that's another topic for another day. But it's awesome to see how the progression you've made over the years, you know, as we mentioned, from like no fitness to like, you know, being fit and actually inspiring other women to do that. How's that been for you with that transition, you know, from studying at uni, doing something completely different, to now being a personal trainer and actually coaching women to become strong?
It's been really good. Like, it's a very rewarding thing because, as I said, like, I really like proving that the impossible is possible. So for me, when I started, like, there was so much in my head, like, I'm never going to be able to do that. I could never do this, that, and that put a lot of insecurities in me. So fitness has been huge in helping me see that my body can actually do so much. So now helping women see that might be struggling with the same thing, like, oh, I could never go swimming, I could never do climbing, this or that. And then they start weight training, and then I feel like it just boosts your confidence in the things that you can do outside as well. So yeah, that's really, really cool to see. And also, like, you gain a special appreciation for your body when you can see what you can do. Like, I'm huge on seeing way beyond the mirror. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's a huge one, especially beyond the mirror, because as women, and I'm sure males have it as well, that we tend to put a lot of focus on just seeing looking at what we can see in the mirror, and sometimes it can put us down regarding that and not actually focusing on the process itself of the transformation. And the transformation doesn't necessarily need to be physical all the time, but mental, as you mentioned, you know, helping women to achieve what they thought was impossible. And that has nothing to do with their looks.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, when you talk to people and you listen to their goals, it's not the weight loss that they're after, it's the feeling that they get from it. It's like the confidence, the feeling capable. And yeah, like, at the end of the day, losing the 5 kilos is not going to give you that. It's just the process itself, what you do. Like, you need to become that person. Like, it all starts with who you think you are, I think, with that identity. So yeah.
I love that. Is that something that you do a process with clients? Like, how do you identify that with them?
Yeah, so I've actually recently released like a goal setting module for them. So yeah, like, who do you want to be, and what does that person do every single day? So yeah, because at the end of the day, it comes down to your habits. And when you accomplish those little things, that's what gives you that sense of confidence. So yeah.
So good. Are you really big onto goal settings?
Yeah, I'm getting more into it. Yeah, because it's a huge part of the process. And I think identifying your values and all that stuff is such an overlooked part of goal setting. Because yeah, we're very quick to mention what we want, but we don't really think about why we want that, like how that's actually going to enrich our life, particularly when it comes with body composition goals. Like, what is it for you on the other side of those 5 kilos you want to lose, or the muscle that you want to build? So yeah.
And like you said, usually the goals that we do tend to set have nothing to do with our body. It's always about feeling that's deep inside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Have you found that most common with your clients?
Yeah, like I think with the body composition, like many other girls, with the weight loss and that sort of stuff. But yeah, like as I said, it's the confidence, and it's really nice to see that transition actually, because then they start going into the gym, they start getting stronger, and they kind of stop talking about the weight loss very much. They're like, oh, like I leg pressed this today, I squatted that today, I was able to do this on the weekend. So it's a very different conversation once they start training for a couple of months and they realize what they can do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so good, especially seeing like well, I wouldn't say like, yeah, beginners like coming into the gym, not having an understanding of what's possible. And then you show them and then they follow the process. And then they're connecting the dots, realizing like, oh my God, there's so much possible of them to train that it's not just to do with the physical, but also the mental side of things.
Yeah, and I think as well, like teaching them about their bodies while they're like I am huge in educating in biomechanics and that sort of stuff. And yeah, like it's really cool for them to notice, oh, like how cool is it that we can isolate this little muscle here and there? So yeah, getting to know their bodies better as well. Yeah, that's huge. I found that education really helps with enjoying your gym sessions as well, understanding why you're doing what you're doing. So that's something I'm huge on, education around training.
Yeah, I love that. How do you go about educating your clients around the training side of things?
So with my face-to-face, like I always tell them why we're doing things. As I said as well, like I post educational stuff on our Facebook group, and for my online clients, they all receive a breakdown of their programming, like why exactly we're doing the rep ranges we're doing, why the exercise selection, all that sort of stuff. Because I think as a coach, the most important thing for me is that if we stop working together, like they gain something out of the experience and they can actually train long term and not stop once we, stop working together. So
Yeah, I think that's huge, especially making them understand why you're doing a particular program, because too often, I know from my experience in the past, you would get a program and it will just be the sets, reps, and the exercise.
yeah.
Off you go. And now we have the understanding and the education to actually not make that mistake for our clients, and making them realize, hey, you're doing this because you need X, Y, and Z. You don't just give them, hey, let's just do 3 sets of A reps of the lat pull down. And your client will be like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, why? And you'll just be like, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what coaching is so valuable. Like I swear by the coaching experience. And I think that's why also every coach needs a coach. Like we need to keep learning and evolving. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I love that. One thing that I'm really big in terms of the programming, I'm glad we're talking about this right now, but around plateau in training, because sometimes certain clients will think that they're plateauing, but they might not be. Does that happen with your clients?
Yeah, I think that's a big conversation that you need to have, because especially at the start, everyone just progresses weekly because your body, it's like everything is so new to you. But yeah, after a while, you kind of start seeing a plateau because, yeah, strength is not linear. It might look like a plateau, but it's just, and it could be a thing like with women sometimes with their cycle and everything that can affect as well. So it's important to have a conversation around all those things. But yeah, also talk about things like periodization and things like that, because that's something I love doing different phases of training. Maybe we focus on conditioning, strength, and in different parts of their fitness journey. And yeah, that's what builds a resilient body and prevents you from plateauing as well. So
Yeah, I love that. And the most common around plateau, what I've found, and maybe for you as well, Laura, is that the training stimulus is just not hard enough. They keep at the same level week by week, not realizing that, hey, we need to increase that intensity, whether it's through, load, whether it's through volume, whatever it is. And I also find that there's a lot of correlation regarding recovery as well.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, with my face-to-face clients, like we are usually up the weight every week. It's easier if I'm there because I can be like, okay, last week we did this week I'm sure you can do that. But yeah, with online clients, it's definitely a bit of a bigger challenge to talk about the weight selection, because yeah, sometimes we can get a bit too comfortable doing the same weights. But yeah, I always put a little note like, don't forget for clients that do struggle with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's like leaving little love notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah, because you know what, like we can also speak from experience that, you know, when we first started, we didn't really have an understanding of what progressive overload was. But now from the years of education and our own experience, we're able to educate our clients and be like, cool, we must have a higher capacity to, you know, train more stimulus around your muscles to be able to see that progress. And then once they have that understanding, you sort of like get this little light bulb moment. They're like, oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's people that take it to the other extreme and they're like always want to up the weight. So yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. So with those clients, like, have you ever come across that with someone?
Yeah, like I have, some clients that are very hardworking. So yeah, that's when I mentioned that we need to have that conversation. Hey, like you're not going to be able to go up in weight every week. Yeah, particularly as you get more advanced, that gets more complicated. So yeah, we talk about different types of progressive overload. You can use the same weight, maybe add a few more reps, or just use better technique. Like that's the best kind of progress that you're going to have. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that because there's such a big variety around progression, as you mentioned. And the one thing that usually people tend to see progress as is just increasing the weight.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I was one of those people.
So was I. For many years, I was just chasing numbers, not realizing that I had to chase other factors of my training progress. And that led me to burning out way too quickly, injuring my back, and just having to take time off that. So, yeah, people are slowly understanding that, hey, it's not just about pushing weight. It's about, the other progressions, like you mentioned, like technique, tempo, recovery as well. I find that is a huge one.
Yeah, and very overlooked. Like I find that a lot of people think that need to train, 5-6 times a week. But but sometimes I feel also when people want to train so many times a week, it can also be a thing of you're not pushing hard enough in your sessions.
Yes.
You can train, 6 times a week, like 4 leg days.
Yes.
Off.
Oh my God. I don't know how years ago I would have done like 6 sessions a week. My body can't even cope after 4 days these.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like I only train 4 and I'm like, I need my rest days.
It's crazy. And I'm glad that you mentioned about the sessions because as you mentioned, like so many people do train, the 6 or even 7 days a week, but they're not pushing more stimulus in their body. They're just keeping the same energy over and over again. And that's where they're expecting the change, but they're not going to get it because their body adapts to it.
Yeah, like in training intensity is huge. I think that's when, like if I've been training with a client for a while, that's when sort of pushing to those failure points can be helpful to show them, hey, like this is what you can actually do. You've been underestimating yourself. So I like using failure as a tool sometimes to kind of show them what they can do.
Yeah, awesome. What types of progressions in failure would you show them?
Just like, pushing to failure in machines mostly. Yeah, because I wouldn't do that with a barbell squat. With machines can be safe to do. Because I found that with myself as well. Like sometimes my coach gives me phases where you push to failure and I'm like, oh, like I can do so much more than what I thought. Like what I thought was an 8 out of 10 was probably like a 5 out of 10. Yeah.
I love that factor because, even as coaches, we sometimes just need to be pushed a little bit more to make us realize, oh, I could have done at least 20 kilos heavier. And you surprise yourself. And a lot of people, back to staying in plateaus, sometimes a lot of people just stay within that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And they're too scared of just pushing that extra bit. So the beauty of having a coach is like, hey, cool, changing up that training stimulus to actually show you that you can actually train a little bit harder.
Yeah, I'd say if you're scared of pushing, like start with machines. That's a really easy one. Yeah, see what you can do.
Yeah. What are some tips around training that you would recommend people to avoid plateau?
I think not doing the same thing for too long, it's pretty big. That's when sort of periodization comes into place, particularly if you're more on the intermediate side. So yeah, don't do heavy lifts for like the whole year, or don't just do hypertrophy the whole year. Make sure you give your body different stimuluses. So, doing like 6-12 reps for one phase, then swap it to more supersets, do something more like condition based, and then do some strength stuff so you can stimulate, so you can get different adaptations essentially.
Yeah, I love doing that. It could be whether it's like accumulation or intensification. Yeah, I love that. And how often would you get your clients to like stick to their programs?
I found that 4 weeks works really well, because from an enjoyment perspective, like 4 weeks is long enough to see progress, but not too long to the point you get bored. Like you could probably push that to longer. But yeah, it just comes from like, whether you want to, it's harder to stick with it. Yeah, if you're bored with your program. So I find 4 weeks to be a sweet spot.
Yeah, usually 4 to 5 weeks is like that sweet spot for many people. I know after a while I will get bored as well.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, the longest one I've done was probably 8 weeks, and I was like, no, I am ready to change this.
Yeah, you're like 8 weeks is enough.
Yeah.
New phase.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's very motivating when you see your progress throughout the week. So yeah, my clients love that too.
I love that. It's so good. In terms of training, what are you doing for it right now?
I'm just trying to get stronger. Yeah, I am actually on a deficit at the moment. I haven't been in one for like over a year, so it's been challenging. But yeah, it's good to sort of test my body, give it something more challenging, and yeah, see how we go. Yeah, I don't really have I don't compete in anything. I just train for myself, and yeah.
I love that. No need for competing. You can just
Yeah.
for your own benefit of feeling strong.
Yeah, I love it. So yeah, I've also been trying a bit more hypertrophy style work, which has been fun, because yeah, I've always been into the big lifts. But yeah, starting to appreciate machines a bit more and that sort of thing.
Good old machines. What type of machines are you loving at the moment?
I'm a big cable person, but yeah, loving the leg press. I haven't used a leg press in my programs in a very long time. So yeah, it's been fun, because yeah, you can always push it really heavy. So yeah.
I love that. That's so good. Now, I know I'm jumping onto what we spoke about earlier, but you also mentioned that as you start your fitness journey, you were also suffering through an eating disorder.
Yes, that was, I think, like about maybe 3 years in. I dealt with binge eating, and it was pretty bad. So as I was going into fitness, I tried a million things with my nutrition. I was very obsessive with it. I did paleo. I did like an all fruit diet. Like I was trying everything. And then I started calorie counting. I didn't do it under the guidance of anyone. So I just like YouTubed everything. And I got into the mindset that it was all or nothing. Like if my protein was not hit to the gram, it would trigger a binge pretty much straight away. Same with the carbs, the fats, the calories, everything. And even though as well I was counting calories, I was still obsessing over the whole clean eating. So essentially I used to binge every single night, like because I would always be maybe 5 grams off, 2 grams off, and that would trigger it. So I was living in a shared house at the time, and I remember it so well. Like around midnight, it was a time where I used to binge, and I used to get, like anxious, like feeling my heart racing when, the time was coming. And then I'll just go into the kitchen and start eating everything. And I would feel super sick, barely sleep, feel guilty the next day, not eat. And then at night I was hungry again. So then the binge started again. So it was a pretty horrible cycle. Like it was pretty much every day. And I dealt with it for almost a year. I put almost 20 kilos in that time, and I didn't know I had a problem. So that's why I speak very openly about my binge eating, because at the time I didn't know it was a thing. It was not until I went to see a nutritionist, and then she kind of made me see that something was off. She made me she made me do journaling and that sort of stuff. I couldn't go back because I was a broken student at the time. But that at least gave me the insight of like, hey, I have a problem. I need to work with this. So I stopped tracking altogether and just started to allow myself to eat everything essentially. And yeah, I did that for a year, and that helped me get through it. But yeah, it was definitely like the excessive restriction that triggered it for me.
Yeah. And what is it like for you right now?
Oh, I have a super healthy relationship with food. I'm so happy where I'm at the moment. I'm not scared of anything. I still obviously eat mostly whole foods. But yeah, it's nice to be in a place where I don't feel restricted with anything. And I go through cycles where majority of the year I don't track. I am at the moment because I'm obviously in a deficit. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I have a very healthy relationship with food. Even when I'm in a deficit, I still, eat my treats and that sort of stuff. I'm very careful with my behaviors around food because I know that sometimes it can get triggered. So yeah.
When you get those triggers, how do you overcome it? Is there a particular way that helps you?
Just, I guess, awareness in the moment and thinking like, hey, don't stress about this. It's okay. Like, you're not going to lose your progress if you went over like, your calories or your protein. So yeah, at the moment I actually give myself, but I give myself like a 100-calorie kind of, free way to not stress too much about the numbers that I'm hitting. So yeah.
And it's so common because a lot of people who start tracking have this fear of getting obsessive with the tracking. And I'm sure that's something that you've come across. That's something that I've come across. And it's a very important topic for people to understand that it's not going to get obsessive unless you let it get obsessive. And it's a really good marker to educate people on how to use it. And not for forever. It's just, like just part of the fitness journey to you have a better understanding of the food that you're eating. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to also have, the conversation with the client, because if they do have history in obsessive behaviors, you do need to be very careful on whether they do it or not. I personally don't teach tracking straight away. I prefer focusing on the eating habits first. So, like photo journals and that sort of stuff, just to help you gain awareness about the food that you're eating. And then, if that feels good, then if you want to be very serious, we can then move into that. But yeah, I'm a big believer that tracking it's a very good tool, but yeah, it's not for everyone, and you don't have to start it like straight away. And yeah, again, like it depends on your personality as well. Like some people are just super obsessive with everything. So yeah,
Yeah,
just need to be very careful.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. I think at one stage I was that type A personality that was just obsessive with everything, training, nutrition, life. But yeah, it was, and then I sort of had to down it a little bit. But I love that you mentioned how tracking is not for everyone. And it's true. Like some people work really well with tracking and some people work really well with more of the mindful and informed way of eating.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it comes down to like when we talk about goal setting, what are your personal values? What do you value the most? Do you value more the flexibility, or are you someone that really thrives in structure and numbers and that sort of stuff? So yeah, if you're that kind of person, then tracking definitely it's a non-brainer. But if you're someone that really values flexibility, time with friends, you don't like stressing about that sort of stuff, then tracking might not be for you, and that's fine. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. In terms, you mentioned the values side of things. Do you have a particular way of assessing that with clients?
I think like in the initial consult, you can kind of see, where they're at. And then as I said, like tracking is not something I do from day one. So I get like usually a month to sort of get to know them. And yeah, in the conversations, you can kind of see where they're at, how their social life is like and that sort of thing. And then, you can present them the choice and be like, these are the sacrifices you might have to make if you choose to do that. And these are the sacrifices for the other one. So, yeah.
And the chances are most people probably don't want to track. Am I guessing that right?
Yeah. Yeah, majority. And I also think though, like with your training, when you're training hard, when you value your body for what it does, you kind of get into the mindset of eating well anyway, because you want to feel those workouts. So yeah, that's something I've found with a lot of my clients anyway.
I love that. While we're on the topic of nutrition, I know you're also a big advocate about telling your clients that dieting is not a forever thing. It's just whether it's a monthly or 2-month process, and it shouldn't be expected to do all year round.
Yeah, I actually encourage most of my clients to have like really long maintenance phases. And majority of the time when I start, that's where I'll start with maintenance. I don't care if they want because I need to understand what they can maintain on before we go on a deficit. And yeah, just having that conversation of, because a lot of the times people are after getting toned and that sort of stuff. And if you're in constant low calories, you're never going to be able to build the muscle to look toned anyway. So yeah.
And you know what? I think that's a really smart way of doing that, because I know from the past I used to have, when I first started, I used to have coaches and I'd be like, cool, I want to go on a diet. I want to shred and look toned, or whatever that meant back then. And they'd be like, yeah, awesome, cool. Here are your calories. Go. Yeah. And I think that's it's a bad way of looking at a person's diet. And like you mentioned, you want to go through this health screening, having a better understanding of where they're at. Have they dieted before? How long have they been dieting for? Yeah, exactly. Do they need a break from dieting?
Yeah, sometimes you see people that are like, oh, I've been eating 1,500 calories for a year. And I'm like, well, we're not dieting then. If you are maintaining your weight on 1,500 calories, we can't diet. So yeah, I think it's important to also have that conversation of health. It's not just, your body composition is about your health as well. If you're maintaining on super low calories, we need to fix that. So
yeah, and you get sick of it after being on a diet for so long because you feel so deprived.
Exactly. And then when you up the calories, I'm like, oh my God, I have all this energy. Yeah, training performance, it's better. It's a lot better. And you can achieve so much as well when you're at, your roughly your maintenance calories. Your body composition, I feel like it changes really well if you're new to training. You lose body fat anyway. So
yeah. You know what, like you mentioned, performance gets so much better and your body just will thank you for it, because again, we're not designed to be dieting year on end or years, to be honest. I've worked with many clients who have dieted for 5-10 years, not realizing that, hey, you don't need to do this. You only need to diet for, usually the longest will probably be 6-8 weeks, and then the rest of the year it's the year for you to be in maintenance.
Yeah, and I feel as well, with maintenance, I'm a huge fan of maintenance. It's nice because you reconnect with your body as well, because it's hard, when you're cutting calories, it's you're constantly hungry, you're not really listening to your body, because you can't really, because if you were to listen to your body, you just eat maintenance. And same with building phases, you're kind of forcing yourself to eat even when you're not hungry. So I feel like maintenance is such a nice time of the year to really get in tune with your body and understand your needs a lot better as well. Yeah, it's not stressful. You're not trying to eat less. You're not trying to eat more. You're just living. So, yeah.
And I think a lot of people need to do more of that these days, to live a little bit more, not to solely focus on, what the scales say or how you look. It's really making every day the most enjoyable time for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's with training as well. I think, training a little bit less at the gym and just testing your body outside as well. You build all this incredible muscle, incredible strength at the gym, go test it somewhere else as well. So yeah, that's why I'm also a big fan of not training too many times a week at the gym. Obviously, if that's what you're into and that's what you want to do, then go for it. But I do think it's important to explore your body a bit more outside as well. I feel like now that I train less now, I have more time to do things I really like indoor rock climbing, bushwalking, dancing. So yeah, I can actually put my body to the test with all the stuff that I work for at the gym. So that's something I encourage my clients to do too.
Salsa or bachata?
I actually do hip hop.
Completely different.
Yeah. I used to teach Zumba though. I was a Zumba instructor.
Oh, I love that. I used to do Zumba when I was really, really young. Those were fun.
It is the best. I'm actually going to go back into it. I'm going to start teaching a class next week, which I'm really excited about.
Love it.
On the weekend.
Completely different.
Yeah. No, it's good fun. Yeah, it's a very non-judgmental zone.
Hey, and you know what? That's what you want with anything, even like with weight training. You want to be in a non-judgmental environment.
Yeah, definitely. Like so many girls struggle with gym intimidation. I was one of them as well. Yeah, it's hard to build up that confidence, but yeah, I think the gym you go to, it's big, the environment you're in, yeah, and practice
Yeah,
going to the gym more.
yeah.
That's it.
You know
Yeah,
what? Like what you said, like sometimes we look at things and you're like, oh, it's impossible. I'm not going to be able to do it.
yeah,
But once place foot in that area and you realize, oh, it is possible, you want to achieve more. And that's where your strive comes for wanting to achieve these goals.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like for me, because I was really intimidated by the gym. I was very intimidated by men. So yeah, I went to an all-female gym. Yeah, and then build up my confidence slowly. So yeah, if you're someone that struggles with getting to the gym, find a comfortable environment, go out non-peak hours and build up from there. Yeah.
Yeah, or even just go with like a gym buddy, someone that you can do it
Exactly.
with first. Yeah.
Or a trainer, like that definitely helps. I have some of my clients that are intimidated by the gym, and just having me there makes them feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. It makes such a big difference, not only by having a coach around, but someone who has done what you're wanting to do to show you the ropes, so that way you can start building that confidence much faster as well.
Yeah, definitely. I wish I had that. Yeah.
Yeah, same. It's so funny because like reflecting back when I first started, I've shared this story so many times, but I'd be the one who'd be on the treadmill just running. And then whenever there would be a space to use the lat pull down, because at the gym that I was training back then, the lat pull down machine was right next to the cardio equipment. So
Oh.
I'd do my running and then it would be free and I'd be like, cool, I'll just do one set of lat pull down, do like 2 reps and then I'll just go home. And
That's it.
yeah, that is literally how it started. And eventually I went into like strength and conditioning classes and eventually into my own training, getting a coach. But yeah, it just shows you your body is so resilient to just put yourself in a really uncomfortable situation for you
Yeah.
to start getting comfortable.
I love that though, because you started very slowly and like, yeah, one step at a time. And that's huge. Yeah. Like you might be starting in the little corner in the gym, but that is something. And then you kind of slowly get out of your shell a little bit more. And yeah.
Exactly. It's so, so true. I love that. Such a good conversation, Laura. Thank you so much for jumping on. Where can our followers and listeners find you?
On Instagram mainly. So yeah, I'm at Coach Laura Chavez, so surname Chavez.
I love it. Awesome. Well, girls, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please share it, recommend it, and tag us at the Women's Fitness Academy. Until next time, believe in yourself and make sure that it is possible to make a change.
Thanks.